Good day again. And so today we're going to take a look at your animal cell. No? Okay, and so going back to your levels of your organization, your animal cell accordingly in basic biology, that is our basic structure. Okay, and so that is the basic structure of a living organism. Okay, and so with that, let's take a look at these animal cells. Let's take a look at the functions and the structure of your animal cell one by one. Okay. Okay, for the objective of this lecture, okay, and so of course at the end of the activity, you are expected to describe an animal cell, describe the parts of an animal cell, describe the structure and function of the cytoplasmic organelles present in an animal cell. Yes, we will be focusing more on animal cell, no, and describe the function and structure of the cell membrane, describe the function and structure also of the nucleus. And yes, how am I going to measure this one? If you can describe each, of course, I will be giving you an assessment after the lecture. Okay, and so you will be given a quiz. Okay, and so identify asking you which is which and what is what. Okay. Okay, so yes, your cell, as what we said earlier, that is the structural unit of all living things. Okay, and please note that a human body has a 50 to 100 trillion cells. So basically, yes, we are cells. Okay, and so in your cell theory, a cell is the basic structural and functional unit of an organism. Yes, a cell can actually stand on its own. Okay, and the activity of an organism depends on the collective activities of its cells. No, okay, and so please, going back to your level of your organization, you have here your we are made of cells. Okay, and so in these cells, when they come together, they will make up a tissue. When your tissues that are made of cells will come together, they will make an organ. And your organ, when they come together, they will make an organ system. And when your organ system comes together, okay, and so it will make an organism. And yes, again, the activity of your organism depends on the collective activities of its cells. Okay, and so that is according somewhat dictated by your uh, cells. And the biochemical activities of your cells are dictated by their shape or form and by the relative number of their specific subcellular structures. Soon as we will move on to take a look at the cellular components, no, you have actually some cytoplasmic organelles that are present in a specific cell and are absent in a specific cell. Okay, and so let's say, for example, your peroxisome, your Golgi bodies, there are actually cells that contain numerous Golgi bodies compared with some cells that has few Golgi bodies. There are cells that have peroxisome, more of peroxisome, and there are cells that do not contain peroxisome. And this, of course, it defines their function. Of course, we will take a look at such, no? And so the function of each, and will somewhat define also the function of the cell. Okay, and also the shape will somewhat also define your biochemical activities of your cells. And then, of course, your continuity of life has accordingly a cellular basis. And yes, with that said, when you define your cell properties, accordingly, you are also defining the properties of life. Okay, and so you are also defining the properties of life. Okay, you have here a different an images actually of different cells now. Okay, and so showing you have here your different shapes of your cells and different sizes. Okay, and so please note that you have in your 50 to 100 trillion cells, you have accordingly 200 different cell types. And examples, you have here your squamous cells, your red blood cells. Okay, please note that they somewhat differ in shape. They somewhat differ in size also. You have here a white blood cell. You have here a chondrocyte. You also have here a sperm cell, okay, a muscle cell, and then you have a nerve cell here. And you have actually a lot of cells. Again, you have 200 types of cells, 200 different cell types, okay? And so you have, according to your types of cells, you have your primitive and your what you call this more developed one. Okay, your eukaryotic cells. This one contains a nucleus and a and an organelle, cytoplasmic organelles for your eukaryotic. Okay, and so with this, they are more developed. You have your nucleus and you have your cytoplasmic organelles with you. And a very good example of a eukaryotic cell is the cells that makes up that makes up the human body. Okay, your eukaryotic cell, you have your animal cells, and your animal cells, you name them. Your prokaryotic cells, they do not include a nucleus or specialized organelles. Okay, and so with this, they have false nucleus, but then please note also that in your prokaryotic cell, they have their own protein. They also have their own DNA. They have their genetic material with them. Okay, and so but then it does not include a nucleus or specialized structures. Okay, and so we will not be focusing more on these eukaryotic cells. Sorry, on your prokaryotic cells. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at your cellular functions. Your cell, they are capable of metabolism. They are capable of using energy. Okay, and so please note that your chemical reactions that occur within your cell requires energy. And with that, these chemical reactions, this series of chemical reactions, you call it as metabolism. Okay, and so and with that being said, your cells, you have actually a lot of reactions that takes place inside your cells, and with that, your cell can undergo metabolism. Your synthesis of molecules, your cells also can synthesize substances. Okay, and so, but then again, and so same with the function, not all of your cells function the same. Not all of the functions of your cells are the same, sorry. Okay, and so same with this, not all of your cells can synthesize the same substance. Okay, and so you have different cells of the body do not all produce the same molecules. Okay, and so with this, your structural and functional characteristics of your cell again are determined by the types of molecules they produce. Okay, and so again, not all of your cells in the body produce the same molecules. Okay, and so with that, your cells inside the body are capable of synthesizing various types of molecules like proteins, nucleic acids, and lipids. Okay, and so for that one. And yes, your cells function also for communication. No, okay, and so your cells produce and receive chemical and electrical signals that allow them to communicate with one another. Okay, and so also you have your presence of your your junctions in your cells. Okay, and so they also function for communication. And your reproduction and inheritance, your cells can also function for such. Okay, and so each cell contains a copy of the genetic information of the individual. During what they call this, during mitosis or during the cell cycle as part of course of reproduction, you have here your genetic material actually is exactly copied to the offspring. Okay, that is for what you call this during what you call this your cell cycle. Okay, and so while of course you have your specialized cells like your sperm cells for males and oocytes for females, they transmit the genetic information to the next generation. to the next generation of, not the next generation of your cells, but your next generation. Okay, moving on for a more detailed functions of your cells, your nutrition. You have here your cells obtain food molecules to support their other activities. Digestion, your food particles are broken down into smaller soluble units suitable for cell use. Absorption, you have here your cell absorbs from their environment, absorbs substances. Okay, and so like they can absorb water, they can absorb nutrients as such. Biosynthesis, the organized complex chemicals from building units or substances. They can synthesize, they can produce substances. Excretion, they excrete the byproducts of cell activities, the ones that are not needed. Okay, and so because accumulation of these substances will be is harmful to the cell, sorry. And then egestion, you have your soluble non-digested particles are eliminated, and then your secretion, sorry, your substances that are synthesized by the cells are expelled from the membrane. Okay, and so the synthesized cells like your proteins, they are secreted. Okay, and so they are secreted outside of the cell. Okay, and then movement, your cells, they are capable of movement. They can undergo locomotion. Of course, this one is somewhat assisted by your flagella, cilia and flagella, probably. Okay, and so please note that you have your sperm cells, the only flagellated cell inside the body that is capable of moving. Okay, your irritability, they react to external factors or conditions around them. Your respiration, breaking down food molecules into chemical energy. Your reproduction, your cells give rise to new cells. Okay, and so for this one. And yes, your reproduction, it happens during the cell cycle, during cell division, and probably again during what we call this, your fertilization. Okay, let's take a look at your parts of the cell. You have your cell membrane, your major parts of the cell. You have accordingly your cell membrane, you have your cytoplasm, and your nucleus. Your cell membrane, this one, of course, is the outer part. And then your cytoplasm, it houses your cytosol together with your cytoplasmic organelles. And then your nucleus, this one accordingly is your spherical or oval shaped structure that is usually the most prominent feature of a cell. For some references, it is considered as an organelle, a large cytoplasmic organelle. But then for this, we will consider it as a major part of the cell. Okay, and so your cell membrane, it is a flexible and sturdy barrier that surrounds and contains the cytoplasm of a cell. Okay, it will actually, your cell membrane actually will separate the intracellular fluid and the extracellular fluid or the extracellular environment. Your cytoplasm, it consists of the cellular contents between the plasma membrane and the nucleus. And also with this, it contains your cytosol and organelles. When I say cytosol, it is equated, or I mean, it is also known as your intracellular fluid, your cytosol. Okay? Moving on, let's take a look at your cell membrane. Your cell membrane, this one is described by using the fluid mosaic model. With this, it isolates, of course, your cell from the outside environment. Okay, and so this one, in your fluid mosaic model, you have actually a molecular arrangement of the plasma membrane that resembles a continually moving sea of fluid. Okay, and so it is a continually moving sea of fluid lipids that contains a mosaic of many different proteins. Okay, and so embedded in your uh, lipids of your cell membrane, you have actually your different proteins. And some of these proteins are free and some accordingly are anchored. Okay, and so please note again that is there is again a continually moving sea of fluid lipids. That is why you have here soon we'll take a look at your fluidity of your cell membrane. Your membrane lipids, okay, and so let's take a look. Your membrane lipids allow the passage of some substances, some lipid soluble molecules, but act as a barrier to the entry or exit of polar substances. With that being said, please note that it is lipid. Lipid, your membrane, it is made of lipids. That is why if it is lipid soluble, then it will favor the entry. It will favor it to pass through the membrane. Okay. And yes, if it is then if it is not, then if it is not a lipid soluble substance, then it will somewhat hinder the passage of it. Okay. And so you have your some proteins allow movement of polar molecules and ions into and out of the cells. Okay. And so remember that earlier we talked about we have your embedded proteins. We have proteins present. Okay, and so there is a mosaic of proteins, as what is stated. And your proteins act as a signal receptor or as a molecules that link the plasma membrane to intracellular or extracellular proteins. Okay, and so the proteins are present in the membrane. Okay, and so with that, we will take a look at the functions of your proteins present one by one. Okay, and so this one is an example of an illustration, sorry, of your protein, of your cell membrane. Okay, and so please note you have your, these are actually your lipids. You have your lipids with you. You have, sorry, you have your lipids, actually, your fatty acid tails. Okay, for this one, you have your integral protein. You have your, what you call this, you have your glycolipid here. Okay, and yes, your glycolipid, that is a carbohydrate. Okay, and then for such, okay, and so that is for your that is for your lipid bilayer or your cell membrane. Okay, and so please note that please do not confuse yourself when we talk about cell membrane, it is described as a it is described as if mosaic, fluid mosaic, no? Okay. Your cell membrane functions to protect the inside of the cell from the external forces. Of course, with this also, if there is no cell membrane, then we cannot call a cell. Okay, because it will enclose your organelles, your cytoplasmic organelles. There will be a mixture of your ECF and your ICF if there is no cell membrane. It limits territorial boundaries of the cell. It will give size and shape to the cell. Yes, okay. And so your cell membrane, it determines what moves into and out of the cell. Okay, and so this one is for your selective permeability. And it plays a role in communication between cells. Again, you have proteins embedded, proteins present in your cell membrane. You have receptors that will that will function for, that will play a role in communication. Yes, okay. Your lipid bilayer. You have your lipid bilayer, your two back-to-back layers made of three types of lipid molecules. You have your phospholipids, your cholesterol, and glycolipids. Okay, and so your phospholipids, it comprises of 75%, 75% of your lipid bilayer is made of phospholipids. 20% of your lipid bilayer is made of cholesterol, and 5% of your lipid bilayer is made of glycolipids. Okay, and please note that it is amphipathic. Okay, and so meaning, okay, please note that your lipid bilayer is amphipathic. Okay, and so when you say amphipathic, it has a somewhat a hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts. What are those hydrophilic and hydrophobic parts? Okay, and so please note that your lipid bilayer, you have here your phospholipids, and it comprises of 75%. Okay, and these phospholipids, let's chop that down. Okay, and so it is made of phosphate and fatty acid. The the phosphate, that is the hydrophilic part, and the fatty acid tail, that is the hydrophobic part. Okay, and so giving it an amphipathic structure, property. Okay, and yes, that is for your phospholipids. Your cholesterol here, that is present within the phospholipid membrane, gives it added strength and flexibility. Okay, and so with this, the steroid ring and your hydrocarbon chain accordingly will fit with the fatty acid tails of your phospholipid and your glycolipid, and your hydroxyl group present in your cholesterol forms hydrogen bonds with polar heads of your phospholipids, with that giving you an added strength and flexibility. Okay, that is for your phosphate and your cholesterol. Moving on, you have your glycolipid. Your glycolipid is seen in the membrane layer that faces the extracellular fluid. Okay, and so it is made of glyco, that means it is sugar, and your lipid, that is fats. Okay, and so it is made of sugar and fats. And this one is seen in the membrane layer that faces the extracellular fluid. With this, of course, okay, and so since it is only seen in the membrane layer that faces the extracellular fluid, with that it will give an asymmetric structure to your cell membrane. Okay, it is asymmetric. Okay, hindi na po parehas, if you will, what you call this, they will not anymore give you a mirror image. Okay, and so for your the presence of your glycolipid. Okay, your cell membrane, still this one is an illustration of your cell membrane. If we try to enlarge it, I cannot actually. How is this? I cannot actually enlarge this one. Okay, and so if you try to take a closer look, you have here your in this diagrammatic illustration, you have the heads. Okay, and so the circles here, they are your polar head, or your hydrophobic head, or your phosphate head. Okay, and then the tails you have here, that is your fatty acid, and this is the hydrophobic part, giving it an amphipathic property. Okay, and so with this, you also have this integral protein, and this one you have your glycolipid. Your glycolipid, again, this one is seen in the membrane, part of the membrane that faces the extracellular fluid. Okay, and then of course you have your proteins with you. Then moving on, let's take a look at this membrane proteins. You have your membrane proteins present. Okay, and so they float among the phospholipid molecules and extend from the inner to the outer surface of the membrane. Okay, and so again, they float among the phospholipid molecules as what we've seen earlier. Okay, and so you have your types of membrane proteins. You have here your integral or peripheral. Okay, and so uh, the classification of integral or peripheral is according to whether they are firmly embedded in the membrane. Then, yes, you call it integral if they extend into or through the lipid bilayer and they are firmly embedded. And peripheral proteins, they are not as firmly embedded as your integral protein. Okay, your integral proteins, they are you have actually types. You have your transmembrane, you have your glycoprotein, and you have your glycocalyx as part. Okay, you have your transmembrane proteins. These ones, they span the entire lipid bilayer and they protrude into both the cytosol and extracellular fluid. Okay, and so they span, okay, and so they are present through the cell, through the lipid bilayer, and they are present, they protrude into the cytosol and to the extracellular fluid. Okay, and yes, your glycoprotein, you have these proteins as what we said earlier, your glyco, that is sugar, and of course your protein. That is why this glycoprotein is made of sugar and a protein. These are proteins with carbohydrate groups attached to the ends that protrude into the extracellular fluid. Okay, and so please note, you have it protrudes into the extracellular fluid. And please note that the carbohydrate portion of this glycoprotein in your glycolipids, they are oligosaccharides. When you say oligo, they are a few, okay, and so few monomers of sugar, okay. And yes, moving on, you have your glycocalyx. Your glycocalyx, that is your sugary coat formed from the carbohydrate portion of glycolipids and glycoproteins. Again, it is a sugary coat formed from carbohydrate portions of glycolipids and glycoproteins. Okay, and so please note that the pattern of carbohydrates in a glycocalyx differs from every cell. That is why you can distinguish your cell, from the cell of another person with the use of glycocalyx. Now, okay, with that, it is safe to say that it is a molecular signature that enables your cells to recognize cells from one another. Okay, also with that, aside from molecular identity, molecular signature, it enables cells to adhere to one another in some tissues. Okay, and so it enables cells to adhere to one another in some tissues. Yes, you have your glycocalyx. It uh, in your what you call this, in your platelets, it can what you call this, enhance aggregation, platelet aggregation accordingly. Okay, and uh it protects your cells from being digested by enzymes in the extracellular fluid. Okay, and please note that your glycocalyx, it has a hydrophilic property. And this hydrophilic property will attract a film of fluid to the surface of many cells. Okay, and with that, it will somewhat function for protection also. Okay, the hydrophilic property will attract film of fluid to the surface of many cells. Okay, moving on, your functions of your membrane proteins. Okay, again, you have these proteins, they are located in the cell membrane. No? Okay, and so let's take a look. Your membrane proteins, they can function as ion channels. They can function as ion channels. Earlier, we talked about that there are substances that cannot pass through the cell membrane because of their structure. Okay, and so like the substances that are water soluble. Okay, and so with this, you have your in your ion channels, they are actually integral proteins. These ones, they form a pore wherein your specific ion can flow to get across the membrane. And please note that these ions, they cannot easily pass through the membrane. Okay, and so by just a simple diffusion. Okay, and with that, they need channels to enter to pass through the membrane to enter the cell. Okay, you have your ion channels. They can function as ion channels for transport, of course. Your carrier, your membrane proteins can function as a carrier or transporter. Your integral proteins transport a specific substance across the membrane by undergoing a change in the shape. Again, this one is also in context with the substances that cannot pass through easily through the cell membrane. Okay, and so because you have substances like glucose, this glucose cannot readily pass through the cell membrane, like unlike for oxygen, carbon dioxide that diffuses easily through the cell membrane. Okay, and so with this, it needs with substances like glucose that cannot readily pass through, they need carrier. They need someone to transport them across. And you have your carrier proteins will function for that. And how are they going to do that? Accordingly, they will somewhat undergo a change in the shape and then allowing the substance to pass through, and then it will be discharged inside. And after it is discharged, then the carrier will return to its original shape. And your membrane proteins can also function as a receptor. Your integral proteins accordingly recognize specific ligand, and they alter cell function in some way accordingly. Please note that you have a lot of receptors present in our cell membrane. You have receptors for antibodies, receptors for toxins, receptors for microorganisms, you name them. You have a lot of receptors. Receptors for other cells somewhat. Okay, receptors for antigen. You name them. Okay. And your membrane proteins, they can also function as catalysts. You have integral and peripheral proteins catalyze reaction inside or outside of the cell. And yes, they also anchor filaments inside and outside of the plasma membrane, providing structural stability and shape for the cell. And it distinguishes your cells from anyone else's cells. Okay, and so that is again attributed to the presence of your glycocalyx. Okay, and so responsible for your molecular signature. Okay. Yes, that is for your membrane proteins. Okay, with that, we talk about that your earlier we talked about that it is if your cell membrane is a sea of free flowing lipids. Okay, with that, in your fluidity of your membrane, accordingly, most of the membrane lipids and many of your membrane proteins easily rotate and move sideways in their own half of the bilayer. Again, in the description of your fluid mosaic model, you have again here a free flowing sea of free flowing lipids. Sea of free flowing lipids. Again, okay, and so you have here there is your lipids present and your proteins present easily rotate and move sideways in their own half of the bilayer. Okay, and so with this, the fluidity of the membrane depends on both the number of double bonds in the fatty acid tails of the lipids. Okay, and on the amount of cholesterol present. To this double bond, please note that double bonds will increase fluidity. A presence of double bonds will increase a fluidity. How are they going to increase the fluidity of the cell? Fluidity of the membrane. They prevent the lipid molecules from packing tightly in the membrane. Okay, and so they prevent lipid molecules from packing tightly in the membrane because when there is what they call this, when there is a rigid cell, there is a rigid cell membrane, then it will somewhat affect the function of the cell. It will affect the movement, okay, and so of the cell. And yes, it will affect its function. Okay, and so a rigid cell, let's say for example in red cells, rigid red cell probably cannot alter its shape to pass through a very small capillary wall. I mean, very small capillary bore. And yes, it is important for such. Okay, your rigid membrane would lack mobility. And a completely fluid membrane would lack the structural organization and mechanical support required by the cell accordingly. And this, yes, your fluidity of your membrane allows interaction to occur within the plasma membrane. Moving on to your selective permeability. As what we said earlier, your cell membrane will allow substances to pass through and will, what we call this, block the passage of other substances. Okay, and so again, please note that you have your lipid bilayer. It is amphipathic. It has nonpolar or hydrophobic and hydrophilic structure. Your cell membrane, again, permits some substances to pass more readily than others. And yes, that is attributed to your lipid bilayer portion of the cell membrane. Okay, and so with this, your lipid bilayer is highly permeable to nonpolar molecules like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and steroids. Your steroids, they are what they call this, somewhat cholesterol in nature, and yes, they are lipid soluble. And yes, being lipid soluble, they can easily pass through the membrane. And moderately permeable to your cell membrane is moderately permeable to small uncharged polar molecules like water and urea. And this your cell membrane is impermeable to ions and large uncharged polar molecules like glucose. Again, and so going back to its context of nonpolar, hydrophobic interior, and polar hydrophilic heads of your lipid bilayer, you have here the more hydrophobic or lipid soluble a substance, the greater the membrane's permeability to the substance. With that, if your substance is lipid soluble, then it can readily pass through. Okay, the hydrophobic interior of the plasma membrane allows nonpolar molecules to rapidly pass through, but then again, it prevents passage of ions and large uncharged polar molecules. And then with this, if that happens, then you cannot, then you need actually your transporters or your carriers to pass through the membrane. Or if not, then you need energy in the form of ATP. Okay, this one is an illustration of a cell membrane. Again, the more hydrophobic or lipid-soluble a substance is, the greater the membrane's permeability to the substance. And again, your hydrophobic interior of the plasma membrane allows nonpolar molecules to rapidly pass through. But then again, they prevent the passage of ions and large uncharged polar molecules. Okay, and so with this, you have here if the substances cannot pass, then you have the health of your channels or your transporters, and probably you have your ATP. Okay, let's take a look at your transport mechanisms. These are for substances, okay, and that uh, moves into and out of the cell. You have your two types. You have your passive and active. When you say transport mechanism, these are means by which yes, your substances from the blood enter the cell. And yes, it is important to support your metabolic processes of the cell. Okay. Your passive transport is a type of a transport mechanism together with active transport. With this, in passive transport, your substance moves down its concentration across the membrane using only its own kinetic energy. When you say kinetic energy, that is the energy present in moving substances. With this, it does not require energy in the form of ATP. Okay, it does not require energy in the form of ATP. Okay, a very good example of a passive transport is your simple diffusion. your gradient. Okay, and so before we move on, let's define these terms. Okay, and so your gradient, that is your solute concentration of two solutions separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, and with this, there is an imbalance somewhat. Your concentration, when you say concentration gradient, that refers to the inequality or imbalance in the solute concentration of two solutions separated by a semi-permeable membrane. Okay, and so there is a difference between the two solutions. There is a difference between the concentration of the two. There is a difference in the concentration between the two solutions. And when you say electrical charge, this one refers to the differences in the net charge of the solutes. Okay, again, there is no balance. There is an imbalance also with this in a electrical charge. Okay, and so there should be a difference for both. Okay, you have here your active transport. There is, in your active transport, your cellular energy is used to drive the substances against its concentration. Okay, and so with this, you have your energy in the form of ATP. Okay, and in your active transport, it requires specific carrier proteins and also requires again energy. An example of this is the use of your vesicles. The use of your vesicles, like you have your endocytosis, exocytosis. Those are examples of active transport. If you want, you have your transport mechanisms that utilizes pumps. They are example of active transport, like your sodium potassium pump. That is an example of active transport. Okay, and so with this one actually is an illustration of your sodium potassium ATPase or sodium potassium pump. With this, just for you, there is the need of ATP for this one to what they call this, transport your sodium ions. Okay, let's take a look at the factors affecting the transport. Okay, so with this, first on the list, you have your degree of ionization. With this, if the substance is non-ionized or in its, yes, if it is non-ionized, in its non-ionized form, then it is more diffusible. It can easily diffuse across the membrane. And then your lipid solubility again, if it is lipid soluble, then it can easily pass through the membrane. Okay, and so it can easily pass through the membrane. And the more, and with that, of course, the more lipid soluble a substance is, the easier it is to cross the membrane. And water soluble, water solubility with this, okay, and so it will somewhat, an increase in water solubility will somewhat decrease its diffusion across a lipid bilayer or across your cell membrane. And size, molecular size of the particle. With that also, the larger the particle, the harder it is to pass through a cell membrane. The harder it is to diffuse. Okay, and so please note, mas malaki, mas mabagal. Or diffusion. Okay, and so again, your diffusion, that is what they call this, an illustration, an example of a passive transport. No, and so please note that in your diffusion, you have also factors that will affect somewhat. Okay, and so in diffusion, there is actually a movement of solutes across a concentration gradient. Okay, and so what will move here? You have the solutes. Okay, and so the solutes will move across a concentration gradient to obtain equilibrium. Okay, and so you have your factors here. You have your size of the molecules. Again, as what I've stated earlier, the larger, of course, the slower. Okay, the size of the molecules as seen actually in your, what they call this, in your experiment last time with the use of methylene blue and methyl red. which is larger. Okay, and so when you computed the molecular weight, or yes, molecular weight of the substances, with that, of course, it came out that the molecular weight of methylene blue is larger. Okay, and so, and with this, when you observed, of course, the what you call this, the diffusion of the stain is somewhat uh it has a lesser diameter. Okay, and so when you measure after the 30 minutes, then when you measured it, it has a lesser diameter, comparing it with the diameter of your methyl red. Because your methyl red, it has a lesser molecular weight. And yes, sabi ko nga kanina, mas malaki, mas mabagal. Okay, differences in concentration gradient. The greater the concentration gradient, the greater the difference in concentration, the faster the rate. Okay, the greater the difference in concentration gradient, then there is a faster rate. Please note also that this one that this one is related to the presence of other molecules. The presence of other molecules also will somewhat slow will yes, it will slow down the rate of diffusion. Your temperature, an increase in temperature accordingly will increase the rate of diffusion, because when there's at a high temperature, the kinetic energy is released. Okay, and so the substances are excited somewhat. Okay, and then distance or size of the container in diffusion, the distance will somewhat uh the distance to travel will somewhat increase the diffusion time. Okay, and the surface area, please note that the larger the surface area available for diffusion will what they call this increase the diffusion rate. Again, larger surface area will increase the diffusion rate. And yes, what is the importance of your diffusion? No, okay, and so since it does not require energy, then it will save us a great deal of energy. And yes, that is important. Imagine, imagine every time that you breathe, you need ATP. If that case, if diffusion needs energy. Okay, and so with this, it saves the cell a great deal of energy. Okay, and so please note that in what we call this diffusion, you have here your oxygen and carbon dioxide accordingly continually. They are they diffuse during breathing. Okay, and so your glucose and oxygen accordingly continuously move into the cell, and your carbon dioxide continually moves out of the cell into the blood. And then other than that, of course, diffusion importance you have here in the absorption of nutrients. Imagine if you absorb nutrients and then you require energy, then of course you need more energy. Okay, let's take a look at your transport mechanisms using via passive transport. You have here first on the list, you have your simple diffusion. Again, in diffusion, you have here the movement of solutes against a concentration gradient. Again, with this, of course, we need to attain equilibrium. Okay, and so your substances move freely through the lipid bilayer of the plasma membranes of cells without the help of membrane transport proteins. Okay, you have your substances that can diffuse or can move inside the cell using simple diffusion. You have your lipid-soluble substances like you have your fats, lipid-soluble vitamins like your vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K. Your oxygen, your carbon dioxide, these ones, what they call this, move to and out of the cell via simple diffusion. Other than that, you have your steroids, also, and your small molecules like ions such as chloride. Your uncharged polar molecules like water, urea, and accordingly small alcohols also move into and out of the cell via simple diffusion. Okay, moving on to your facilitated diffusion. Okay, in your facilitated diffusion, you somewhat need a carrier or transporter. You somewhat need a carrier or transporter, but then you do not need energy in the form of ATP for this. Okay, and so no need for ATP. And yes, again, somewhat your solutes will move across a concentration gradient to to maintain equilibrium. And this one needs specific carrier proteins. You have your integral proteins, as what we stated earlier. You have your ion channels and your integral proteins that functions as ion channels and integral proteins that function as carriers. And yes, this one is designed for substances that have difficulty in moving substances against a gradient. Okay. You have your two types of this one, of your facilitated diffusion. You have your facilitated diffusion or your channel-mediated facilitated diffusion. Of course, with this, it utilizes membrane channels. It utilizes your integral proteins, your integral channels embedded in your lipid bilayer in your cell membrane. Okay, and so it uses membrane channels, and most accordingly of these channels are ion channels. Most numerous ion channels are for potassium and chloride transport. And with this, yes, it allows passage of small inorganic ions that are too hydrophilic for the hydrophobic lipid bilayer. Okay, yes. And then the other one, sorry, this one is an illustration actually of your channel-mediated facilitated diffusion. Okay, and so with this is an illustration of a channel. Okay, and so somewhat in your channel, there are gates, okay, for this one. Okay, and so the gates will open to accommodate, to let the entry of your substance, and after the entry of course, it will close. Okay, and then for your carrier-mediated facilitated, please add T here, facilitated diffusion. You have your carrier, or it needs when, in contrast, for your facilitated diffusion via channel protein, it utilizes here for the difference, sorry, and so it utilizes carrier or transporter. Okay, and so it does not need channels, but it need carrier or transporter. Okay, and so the solute, accordingly with this, the solute will bind to a specific carrier on the side of the membrane and is released on the other side after the carrier undergoes change in shape. Okay, and so during the change in shape, the substance that is carried will move somewhat. Okay, this one is an illustration of a carrier-mediated facilitated diffusion of glucose. Okay, and so for this one, it utilizes glucose transporter. Okay, and so sabi natin kanina, glucose cannot readily pass through the cell membrane, the lipid bilayer. Okay, and so with this, of course, first, sabi niya kanina doon is it will bind. Glucose will bind to a specific type of carrier protein, and that specific type of carrier protein is your glucose transporter. Saan po siya nakikita? It protrudes. Okay, and so outside the surface of the membrane. And after it binds, okay, and so again, there is a change in the shape of the transporter. The transporter will undergo a change in the shape, and the the substance will pass through. Okay, and so the substance will pass through the membrane, and then after, of course, it will release the glucose on the other side of the membrane. Once the glucose or the substance is released, the what they call this, the transporter will return to its original shape. And yes, osmosis. Your osmosis here is the movement of solvent or water from a region, yes, from a region of lesser concentrated solution to a higher solute concentration. Please note that for us, you have your solvent. We are actually made of water. Okay, and so the solvent is water, which moves by osmosis. Okay, and so across the plasma membrane. Okay, and so movement in your osmosis, you have movement of water. Please note that in this one, there is a movement of water again across a concentration gradient. When for diffusion, there is a movement of the solute. Okay, and so from again across a concentration gradient to maintain equilibrium. Okay, and so in membranes, probably water moves via simple diffusion. And also, it moves via aquaporins. They are actually transporters. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at your effects of varying solutions to the cell. Okay, and so for this one, you have your isotonic, hypotonic, and your hypertonic. When you say isotonic, it has the same tonicity and osmolarity as the blood. Okay, and this one is comparable to a 0.85 to 0.90% sodium chloride solution, and it does not affect the amount of water in cells. Okay, and so when you place a cell inside a hypotonic, when you place a cell in an isotonic solution, it does not affect the amount of water inside the cell, since there is a balance between the concentrations inside and outside of the cell, then there is no movement of water. Okay, and so there is no movement of water. With that, there is no net movement. Okay, with that, there is no change in the cell morphology. And yes, your hypotonic solution, you have a lesser tonicity compared to the blood, and this one is comparable to a 0.90% less than 0.90% sodium chloride solution. With this, okay, and so since if you place a cell in a in a hypotonic solution, since there is an imbalance, then of course your water will move uphill following the concentration gradient. Okay, water will move uphill following the concentration gradient. Since it is hypotonic, the water will move inside the cell to maintain equilibrium. And yes, your cells, they are capable of expansion. They can expand to a certain extent. But then, if and yes, it will swell. Okay, and so, but then if swelling has is but then if swelling continues, then it will cause lysis of the cell. If swelling continues and equilibrium is not reached yet, then lysis will occur. This one is seen in cases of placing a cell in a hypotonic solution. And then your hypertonic, your greater osmolarity compared to the blood, and this one is comparable to a solution of of a solution. This one is comparable to a 0.90% greater than 0.90% sodium chloride solution. Okay, and so again with this, it will follow the concentration gradient. It will move across it will move uphill following the concentration gradient. With this, okay, and so water will drive out of the water is driven out of the cell. It will move outside since there is a greater concentration outside of the cell, then water will move out. Okay, and so to maintain equilibrium. And with this, the end result, you have your crenation or shrinking of the cell. Okay, that is for hypertonic. This one is an illustration of a red cell. Normally, a red cell accordingly looks like this. There should have a somewhat clearer area here for the central pallor. But then, okay, and so a red cell that is placed under a isotonic solution will look like this. It will not, it will be the same. It will remain the same. Placed in a hypertonic solution, it will shrink. And then placed in a hypotonic solution, it will swell. And yes, let's take a look at your active transport mechanism. Again, and so it can be done via two mechanisms. You have your transport using pumps and transport by vesicles. And with this again, going back earlier, for your active transport, it requires energy in the form of ATP. For your transport by pumps, it moves ions and other particles to specific areas. Example, you have your sodium potassium pump. And your transport by vesicles, you have your cell membrane accordingly creates a vesicle to transport the matter either into the cell or out of the cell accordingly. It will create a vesicle. And yes, this one is an illustration of your sodium potassium pump. Okay, and so please note that you have the red one. For the illustration here, you have your red that is for your sodium and the green, the square one that is for your potassium. Okay, and so in this illustration, you have three sodium potassiums, three sodium ions from inside the cell funnel into receptor into receptor sites on a channel protein. Okay, and so you have three. They will actually enter into the receptor protein. Okay, and yes, as what we said earlier, it requires ATP. You have your ATP is required, the channel protein then releases the sodium ions into the extracellular fluid, causing them to move from an area of lower to higher concentration for that one. While for your potassium, again, your potassium here, that is in your square, your potassium from the outside of the cell enter the same channel. Okay, and so please note you have conformation for your square ones here. Okay, and so your potassium ions from the outside of the cell will enter the same channel. And yes, okay, and so the potassium ions are released inside the cell. Okay, and please note that it requires energy. Okay, and so when you release your what do you call this? When you release sodium from out to the outside of the cell, it requires energy. And yes, finally in your transport vesicles. Again, your vesicle. This is small spherical sac formed by budding off from a membrane. Okay. And yes, examples of your transport that utilizes vesicles, you have your endocytosis, your exocytosis, and your transcytosis. Your endocytosis, you have your materials move into a cell in a vesicle formed from the plasma membrane. Your exocytosis, vesicles fuse with the plasma membrane, releasing the contents into the extracellular fluid. And your transcytosis, of course, substances in vesicles are moved across the membrane. Okay, and so an illustration actually of an endocytosis. Okay, and so you have here the substances are being enclosed by a to a vesicle. Okay, and so you have your vesicle fusing with the lysosome for digestion. Okay, and then of course you have here your what they call this, your vesicles are transported to plasma membrane. What do you call this? This one is for endocytosis. This one is for exocytosis, actually. And this one for your transcytosis. And that is actually transferred across the cell. And yes, your phagocytosis, this one actually is an illustration, again, an example of what they call this, an endocytosis. Okay.